Welcome to the Mesa Chamber of Commerce Inside Business Podcast. My name is Sally Harrison, and I'm the CEO of the Mesa Chamber of Commerce. Today, we're in the University of Phoenix podcast studio, and joining me as today's guest is our friend Marc Garcia, president of Visit Mesa.
Hi, Sally.
Hi, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. We always love having you. Marc, thanks for being here today. We have a lot to talk about because there's been a lot going on with Visit Mesa.
We do.
Yes.
There's been some great things happening.
A lot. But let's start with the basics because not everybody knows what Visit Mesa is, does, means.
Sure.
Let's start with that. What's your mission?
So Visit Mesa is what used to be the Mesa Convention and Visitors Bureau. So
Right.
people might know us by that name.
It's been a few
Or
years.
Mesa CVB,
Right.
right? But many of us in the destination marketing organization world have changed our name. Many of us across the country, in fact, all over the world, to more aptly describe who we are, what we do. We're in the business of selling, marketing our cities
Right.
for business travel and leisure travel. So we represent Mesa and the entire Southeast Valley. We're a regional brand. That's what City Limitless is all about. I
Right.
think people may have seen some of our marketing, some of our signage. Our logo has City Limitless. That's the idea for it, that when you come here, there are limitless opportunities for great travel
It's true.
experiences, right? It was sort of a play when we rebranded off of when you're coming into Mesa from Phoenix or any other place and you see Mesa City Limits, right? It's just put you in a box.
Right.
And we'd like to think that our travel experiences are certainly outside of that box.
Awesome. Well, so you said there's been a lot going on. The highlight, obviously, has been that Visit Mesa became autism certified.
Yes.
And then that expanded. So talk about that. First ever autism certified city. How'd we get here?
Was quite a ride.
Yeah, it started months and months ago.
It started about a year ago.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it started a couple years ago. So
Right,
how
with
we got here, my
discussion.
son, who is now 6 years old, Mason Charles, was diagnosed at 14 months with severe autism. But it wasn't until a couple summers ago that we were on our annual summer vacation. We go to Southern California. I'm not going to name the city here. And usually we spend a lazy week at the beach. We'll go out to dinner a few times, but, it's basically just going down to the beach every day.
Sure.
But on this particular trip, this particular summer, we said, let's immerse ourselves in the city. So we split our week between two hotels. We went into the museums. We went to other attractions throughout the city that we know very well already. And it just happened to be a miserable week. Our son had meltdown after meltdown. And it was an unpleasant experience. We were made to feel uninvited, unwelcome. And we got those stares. The look, that suggests to you, well, can't you control your child?
Right.
The muffled whispers. And the thing is, most of these stares and these muffled whispers weren't necessarily coming from other guests like us, at the hotel or at the restaurants or at the attractions. They were primarily coming from people in my business, supposed hospitality professionals.
Not very hospitable.
No. And I said, this is wrong. And I probably used some other colorful language and said,
You?
yeah, me. So I said, I'm going to do something about this. Maybe not here, but I'm going to do something about this in Mesa.
Cool.
And so I came back. You may remember because
Yep.
you're on the board.
Yep.
We held a strategic planning session. I shared my experience with you and
Right.
the leadership team at Visit Mesa, and I said, let's do something. And even at that time, obviously, he was 4 at that time, been doing quite a bit of research, either myself or learning from my wife, who's one of those autism mama warriors, who's very engaged and really making all the difference in the world for our Mason. The prevalence, 1 in 59 people have autism. It's 1 in 35 boys.
Yeah, that's
And
crazy
most of us in
numbers.
the autism community know that those are really conservative numbers. The prevalence rate is probably higher. Even the CDC was 1 in 68 just 18 months ago.
Wow.
And it just continues to grow very rapidly. So here I'm saying to myself, you have a large consumer base, massive, and growing at an incredible clip.
Right.
And they're hyper loyal. I've learned through my wife.
Absolutely. That
She
makes sense.
spends a lot of time in the Autism Mom blog world and Facebook chat rooms. And she's learned that once a place becomes quote unquote autism friendly, the autism community flocks to it and they keep going back
Makes sense.
and again and again. And so,
So how did that experience and then talking with the board and your staff lead you to IBCCES?
good question. I started locally. Obviously our son's been getting services locally for some time, and I wanted a certification if it was all possible, if it was possible. I wanted something that educated people in our business, in our industry, to know what autism is, to maybe allow them to see what the world looks like through the lens of somebody who has autism.
Well, and a certification holds more weight.
It does.
Than being friendly.
Correct.
Right.
That's exactly it. I wanted more than just these one-off events, doing them on a quarterly basis, or it's autism nights or autism days.
Right.
Wanted something more than just producing a video or maybe even some sensory guides and then putting a sticker in our window saying we were autism friendly.
Right.
I was hoping for a certification. Even more, was hoping that it would be so robust that it would require a recertification every couple of years, because the science is always evolving on this. And so it's important for people to keep fresh and keep up to date. And so I didn't find anything local, so I started looking nationally and just doing a lot of Google, searches. And came across IBCCES, the International Board of Credentialing and Continuing Education Standards. And I had seen, and I was reading, they were working with SeaWorld, and they have a bunch of different brands as it relates to SeaWorld. The Space Center in Houston and zoos, and they were doing sheriff's departments, and came to learn that for the past 20 years, they've been leading the world in these types of certifications in healthcare and education.
Right.
But over the past 5 years, they got into the travel and tourism space. They're out of Jacksonville, Florida. It's a tourism state. And saw that they were doing hotels throughout, the country and throughout the world, but no one city as a collective of products and services had come together to do a certification. So I called them up and got a hold of Myron, who's the chairman, and Meredith Teakin, who's the president, and we had a long discussion. It was a back and forth affair for about 6 weeks, and we learned and determined together we wanted something that was going to be tough but achievable, something that was reasonable.
Sure.
So we determined with them that if we get 58 of our partnering businesses, and by partners sort of like membership, so let's just call it for these purposes today, if we got 58 of our members to join us and 80% of their front-facing or guest-facing staff to go through the certification program, that we would achieve this status. At that time, it was as a travel destination.
Right.
We all know now that it's the designation is as a city through and through, and that's because of somebody named Sally Harrison who really stepped up and was able to help us, get into the non-travel space and working with businesses. Yeah, and it's just been tremendous. Thank you so much to you and your staff and everything you're able to do to open up the doors to IBCCES and make those inroads.
We have a really caring community, though.
We do.
So when you start talking about things like this, our business community is part of that community, and people want to be engaged. They want to do the right thing.
They do. I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's another reason why it's worked well here, and the reason why it's happened so quickly is because that's in the DNA of Mesa.
Well, and through this, we found out that a lot of our businesses that have gotten engaged also have children on the spectrum.
We're everywhere.
Yeah, that's true.
Us autism families, we are everywhere. But yeah, your point is well taken. We're a city with a heart, a city with compassion. We're known as a family-friendly city and destination to begin with. Right. So it just plays right into our brand. And of course, in addition to the great work that you here at the Mesa Chamber of Commerce has done and continues to do, but the city of Mesa really stepped up.
Yeah, I mean, when Parks and Rec stepped up, that was a big
500
commitment.
employees.
Huge commitment.
Right. And it's not your standard parks department. Right. So yes, they have the standard parks and the aquatic centers, but you have the convention center and the cemetery. I mean, that department's responsible for so much more. Right. And now we have the police department, 1,200 staff members with PD are going through the training now. The fire department also has committed to this, and I think they're almost through their training.
They were at 99% just a couple of days ago.
So you know more than I do.
They might be at 100 that same day, actually. Yeah.
Tremendous.
Pretty exciting.
And then just today, we already knew about the commitment, but the Dobson branch of Mesa Public Libraries just achieved their certification today. It was announced by IBCCES. So
That's
fantastic. And so we're continuing to move this through the community. We know about many of the businesses that you're working through, again, because of the work you did. They're all stepping up. Boeing came through. I mean, SRP.
So talk about the benefit to a business, because there's also not just the front-facing employees, but the opportunity to hire. Right? So talk about that a little bit.
Well, I mean, that's the multi-pronged approach to this whole thing. We've said all along that, yes, we want to train our staff to provide the best customer service that we can.
Right.
But knowing that we could achieve this designation as a city through and through, when you get into the corporate sector, it's more about employment.
Right.
And we've always said that, our phase 2, at least as a hospitality industry, we were going to be going into employment anyway. So it's awesome to see that through your efforts and your help that we're getting there. But I'd like to see the hospitality community start hiring folks on the spectrum.
Absolutely. So we know our friends at SRP have jumped on board with this, but that they've also got some folks that they've already been hiring. So, I mean, that's just exciting stuff.
It's outstanding.
So talk about, like, the process. What do people do? How do they obtain a certification?
It's a difficult question to answer.
We'll do it anyway.
I'll try. Because there isn't one size fits all. I mean, every company.
So who does a business or an organization contact?
If it is outside the travel and tourism space, probably Sally Harrison. But in the travel and tourism space, it would be me. And we'd have a discussion about, the number of employees, how many are front facing, and give them an idea of what the cost might look like based upon what other companies of a similar size, other hotels, attractions, service providers, etc., then to give them an indication. But once we have that initial discussion, we send them on to IBCCES because that's where the true interface needs to take place. That's where they get into the nitty-gritty and the details and find out exactly how many employees will be going to the training, what type of platform, what specific type of training each of those employees will do. We find that very often the HR departments are going through the highest level training because they want to be able to onboard future employees in our business. It's pretty seasonal.
Right.
And so people are kind of in and out of the organization. City of Mesa Parks Department's also it's now part of their regular onboarding process.
That's awesome.
And the level of training depends on what their objective is, what they're trying to achieve. Obviously, if you're a business who's not in our space, it's really not necessarily about customer service, but the training is really directed towards hiring practices. And then, of course, with the PD and fire department, it's about first responder work, real world scenarios. They do a lot of role playing, which is completely different from the training that the hotel or the attraction or the restaurant is going through. In our organization, I required that 5 of us went through the highest level training that you can, and then the balance of the staff did the most basic level one, and they have less interface with the customer. So they're going through a 30-minute course. But again, it's a hard question to answer because it really varies.
Even that 30-minute course is
you learn a lot.
Really eye-opening. Really eye-opening. I think our staff and our board of directors, found it really helpful and informative. Personally, I think everybody should go through that because you just never know who you're going to run into when you're grocery shopping or to be anything, right?
And that's just the thing. I mean, from the very beginning, we always said this country is not ready to provide the service for this community that continues to grow. I mean, these, very often what we're talking about, we think kids, but these are going to be adults.
Right.
And there's already those who are adults on the spectrum. How are we responding to their needs?
Right.
And that goes to your grocery store, to your laundromat, to your dry cleaner,
restaurants,
to restaurant. I mean, just you name it.
Right. So I know you have a new and interesting partnership with our friends at COPA Health, or formerly Marc Community Resources. Talk a little bit about that.
It's an exciting partnership.
Yeah.
And we're working on those details. We had a meeting on Monday to really kind of finalize some things. But when these families come for a vacation, or let's say, mom and dad, mom's got a conference, right? And it's at the Delta right here in downtown Mesa. And there's an awards ceremony as part of that convention, but they can't bring their child.
Right.
Where do they take their child?
Right.
Where would they feel comfortable taking their child? So we're working with Copa Health now to do respite services. So folks coming in,
awesome.
maybe they want to golf, maybe they want to go out to dinner, they want a break, right? And so they're able to, send their child to the Copa facility where they have all the services in the world that they want. Copa can come to them at their hotel. So we're in discussions right now with the hotels, talking about quiet rooms and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But they can do all the respite activities, respite services at the property level or at any one of our certified parks throughout the community, thanks to our parks department. The possibilities really are endless, and it's just a sense of relief for some of these families to know that they'll get a BCBA or, someone who's certified, understands their child, understands their needs, and knows how to respond appropriately.
Will that be available for local people?
Yes. Well, and that's what Copa wants to do. Right. So those are some of the things that we all need to work out because those services then need to be detailed on our website, on their website, for both locals and for, visitors coming in, giving them options. And so putting up a pretty robust experience or plan or options.
I talked to somebody yesterday about an event that's coming up in April.
Yes.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah, April 4th.
Yeah.
So it's obviously Autism Awareness Month, and it is prom season.
And Sally Harrison's birthday, just saying.
That is your birthday?
I remember the event because it happens to be on April 4th. So, yes.
Yeah, so we are going to be hosting a prom called Exceptional Prom. We're working in partnership with an organization called Positive Friendship.
Yes.
I know they're members of yours.
Yes,
I had to think
they
about
are.
that. Tasha is a wonderful woman. This was her brainchild.
Yep.
She came to us after learning about the whole autism certification. She said, well, what
Child
do you
on the
think?
spectrum.
Exactly. What do you think about doing a prom, not just for those with autism spectrum disorder, but any kind of special needs?
Right.
I thought it was a tremendous
I'm so excited
idea.
for this.
And so it will be held at the Sheridan Mesa Hotel at Wrigleyville West, right near Sloan Park.
Yep.
April the 4th. We're really excited about it. We're trying to get some celebrities lined up as well.
Yeah.
Looking
Gonna need some
forward to
sponsors, some
Gonna need
volunteers.
Yeah. So if you're interested in sponsoring and helping out a great event, serving a terrific community, a loyal community,
Right.
Give us a holler.
Yeah. Well, and she'll have some information available, I think, probably after the holidays to really kick things off. But I know she's already starting to kind of log anybody who's interested in just being a volunteer.
There's a website out right now, exceptionalprom.com. So it's more of it's in the form of a save the date, but much more content is soon coming right after the first of the year.
Pretty exciting.
Very.
Yeah. So where do you go from here? Like, what's next?
Well, we talked about employment. That's kind of where we want to take at least the travel and tourism piece of it. So I want to be able to communicate to, the hotels and the restaurants and the attractions and the museums about making sure they're hiring folks on the spectrum. These are hardworking, dedicated, very focused people, and they want to work.
Yeah.
They just need the opportunity. So that's where we're going to take this next. Then I'd like to get into housing, if at all possible, in our key employment corridors in Mesa, whether it's downtown, Fiesta District, Riverview, where they're building 1.3 million square feet of Class A office space. There's going to be major employers there. Obviously, in the Elliott Technology Corridor and then in Falcon Field area.
Right.
If we can get these mini communities where they can walk to work, live right there, and also have their barber or their hairstylist, their grocery store, their Walgreens, their pharmacy, and have it all right there.
Right.
If you could get, I've always wondered about this, 10 to 12 major brands, and you put these together. I mean,
that's really cool idea.
Pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
That's a dream. I don't know how long it'll take us to get there.
Well, so is being certified as a city. So
it is.
Dreams do come true, right?
Yeah, it's a blessing, and we're very excited about that. And we're advancing our brand in the process. This was a business decision for us.
Well, and I think all the businesses and organizations that have signed up should look at it that way.
Absolutely.
Right?
We were on BBC last week. We've been in the New York Times. I mean, just the press alone has been tremendous. We've already booked a convention out of it.
Nice.
More are interested.
Good.
And not just with autism, but, other cognitive disorders. It's amazing what's happening.
So if anybody's interested, they should call you
Yes.
or call me, and I'll tell them to call
Yes. I love it when they call you.
Marc, thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate you being here on the Inside Business Podcast. You can find all of our episodes on the Inside Business Podcast at iTunes, Google Play, or your own favorite podcast website. You can also find them online at mesachamber.org. Thank you.
Thank you.